because smaller companies by nature are able to pivot quicker, that's what kind of separates the disruption or the ability to scale versus larger established companies like you were mentioning.
If you have me back again, I'll tell you about that because it tells you how broken the system is. It's sad. It's sad from there's no rehabilitation for people. There's really no support. It's a system that's there to perpetuate itself.
I 100% agree with you. I think being able to make decisions quickly is true strength, and then being able to pivot quickly once you know you've made a wrong decision or a bad decision, and then move in another direction. So the constant iteration, I think, helps a lot of companies, and because smaller companies by nature are able to pivot quicker, that's what kind of separates the disruption or the ability to scale versus larger established companies like you were mentioning. When you mention decision making, making right decisions, wrong decisions, at some point you made a wrong decision that led to your ultimate, I don't want to say demise, but the downslope that kind of led to why you refer to yourself as entrepreneur, speaker, author, felon. So that felon piece, the act or the crime that you committed that led to you becoming a felon, that wasn't during your Allegiant days. That was much after, correct?
Correct. Much later. And what I say is, and that's why the book's a great choice, because life is very little black and white. We like, when you're young, it's black and white. I think it is when somebody's, and when you're older, you see there's more gray. And I made a lot of choices in life that led me further out on the gray. The analogy I like to use is if you leave LA on a plane bound for DC, and if you're off by 1 degree, you end up in New York City because of time, speed, and distance. And that's what happened to me. But I knowingly committed a crime when I did it. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was illegal, and I justified it because you have to be able to justify it. All right, I would hope you would have to be. If you would have a con, you'd be a sociopath if you couldn't, because I didn't take money. But the decision I made was driven, and I believe most decisions are made by greed and fear. And I'd lost so much money, and I was reading an article this morning, and I felt like I wrote it, of what somebody believes is getting ready to happen, and what I went through 15 years ago is I caught a falling knife, and I was already down, and then it just made it worse. And there was a transaction I was involved with. It's very complex, but I like to go right to the point. I knew the minute that I let it happen, I committed a felony. But unlike robbing a 7-Eleven where, they call the police and somebody's on it, it takes a while. And so I had 7 years after that of having to live with it on one hand, and on the other hand, eventually having to deal with it. And I really appreciate your choice of words. It wasn't my demise, but I'll come back to that. What happened to me is, and this is for your entrepreneurial listener, and I preach this morning, noon, and night. I talked about 4 people around me. You have to surround yourself with people who, number one, you implicitly trust and you will tell them everything. Number 2, that will be blatantly blunt, honest with you. Number 3, it's not your spouse, your significant other, your partner, because that's a different relationship. They have to be people, some should be from your industry, maybe. There should be people from left field. But I did such a good job for so long and because the economy was so bad, I didn't have the resources, or I chose not to allocate the resources, a better word, my choice, a bad choice, to surround myself with people who knew what I didn't know or who were better at things I wasn't as good at. And that is so important in organization. So as I was building that, I did that day in and day out. And then that's one. The group of people, and I tell people, buy them lunch, do this, do that, do something so they feel value. If you're big enough, make it economically valuable. There's people who want to help you. They have all that knowledge. Like those 30 CEOs I were with, I know a lot of them do pro bono advising because they don't need the money, and they're big St. Louis names and some great names of some unbelievable companies. So that's one thing. The other thing is know what you don't know. That's important. And then as you go down that path, you have to remember most entrepreneurs make their money on what I call being a guerrilla warrior. And there's a great book called Guerrilla Marketing. And my fireworks stand, one reason I was successful is I took 2 4x8 sheets of plywood and wrote discount fireworks ahead and went about a mile down the road to the neighbors. They would put on their fence and a mile north and did that. The other thing was this was called a mimeograph machine. No one listening knows what this is. It's what you call a copier today. I went to the school, got to use a mimeograph machine, and I had discount fireworks, bottle rockets, 99 cents a gross, and I would go to grocery stores and put them in the windshield on the wipers of cars. That's guerrilla marketing. But business is guerrilla warfare, small business. And I did that for so long, and then I spent 4 years with the Fortune 200, and I lost all touch with reality. And you're so siloed that I didn't understand what had happened in the market. I came back, did what I thought would do to bail me out of a bad situation, caught the falling knife, made a horrible decision, committed a crime, then had to live with it, and then had to serve 37 months in federal prison, which if you have me back again, I'll tell you about that because it tells you how broken the system is. It's sad. It's sad from there's no rehabilitation for people. There's really no support. It's a system that's there to perpetuate itself. And by the way, I never met one man, because you're only incarcerated man, who didn't say they weren't guilty. So all that stuff where people say I wasn't guilty, that's BS. That wasn't there. But what's amazing is how that it's nothing's done there to keep, and that's why 70% of people go back. There's nothing there. It's a government program built on perpetuating a government program. But no, I made that mistake. I committed a crime. I paid for that crime in more ways you can. It cost me freedom, obviously. It cost me, I have a broken relationship with my family. It cost me a ton of money financially, and it cost me a lot of friends. What you do learn that is who your friends really are. And this is one thing about this town. It may be punishing in one regard to people. It's also very welcoming in other. And it's just been unbelievably surprising about that. And I like to say this, there's a saying in the world, seldom in life does someone realize their greatest dreams are their worst fears. I've realized way above my greatest dreams. I've been fortunate to not reach my worst fear, which would be losing a child, but I've been there. And that gives me such a perspective. And I believe, and people say this, everyone has a book in them. And if you went back to Thayer, Missouri, and granted, anybody went to school with me, I would have probably been least likely to ever write anything because I did not like English. I love mathematics and sports. But a friend of 40 years and a friend of 3 years, an African-American man, both read the book, both called me up, said, let's break bread. And they both said the same thing. They said, do you not feel free? And I said, you know what's funny is, and I looked at Anthony, and he's taking me off my birthday today, a 48-year-old unbelievable African-American entrepreneur. I love his story, makes money every day, thinks like you and I do. And it tells you entrepreneurship is not about race, it's about people. And he said, don't you feel free? And I said, Anthony, I feel the best I've ever felt in my life. And I'm out having fun and doing deals and making money. And I have a great perspective. And I get to meet people like you in business and in situations like this. And I love what you are doing. And it's really, I have to say, your generation. You take this media of podcasting, and you share it. And people don't realize you don't need to watch TV. Whether you exercise, you drive, listen to all the knowledge is out there. And I'm not talking about just business knowledge, health knowledge, exercise, all these things you can learn for nothing in almost every case from really experienced people. And that's what your free time should be about. And so this has been great.